Welcome back to Worlds Beyond with Kim and Ron, everyone. It's been longer than we thought it was going to be before our next episode. Excited to talk about Dune Part 2 today. We thought we were going to do this one, like we saw the movie on, or the day after it was released, and thought we were going to, this was almost going to be like an out of the theater reaction one. But things get in the way. In particular, Kim, you got a brand new job that I know is taking up a ton of your time.
Yes, I am a newspaper reporter at a little local paper here in New Hampshire. And you'd think it being kind of a smaller paper and a less active part of the state might not be as fast-paced as some other publications, but no, it's we do a pretty thorough job. There are 16 towns that we cover throughout southwestern New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire, so you'd be surprised. There's a lot going on. Maybe not earth-shattering, but for a lot of the townspeople it is. So it's just been a lot of going to town meetings and covering the elections and that sort of thing, and driving around to a lot of different places. But it's been challenging and fun, so I'm really enjoying it so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know you've told us some really funny stories, and on all your articles, I've read your articles. They're great quality writing and good reporting. So that's awesome. A lot more interesting than what I do every day, but working in the retirement business. But be that as it may, we are happy to be back recording. We are happy that you are listening. Please do give us a like and a follow on any of our various social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us Worlds Beyond with Cam.
Yeah, those are the big three. And then obviously give us a quick like or follow on whatever podcast app you use. That is also appreciated.
Absolutely. And so here we are with Dune Part 2, released on March 1st, 2024. I just checked back. The first one came out in like November of 2021. I didn't realize that much time had gone by, partially due to the, I know the release date was pushed back a little bit because of the strike, but
right.
But initial reaction, Cam, what was yours?
My initial reaction was I liked it. I loved it, actually. Probably just about as much as the first one, although they were different in some ways. This one was a little bit more action-packed, I think. Although I did find that this one felt a little bit longer than the first one. I think the pacing, there was a lot of different points that had to be hit, even despite being a part 2. I thought the pacing kind of slowed down in a few sections. But overall, I think it makes a really great companion piece to the first one, and it really feels like a natural extension of it. And I just love the weird, almost alien, even though these are humans we're watching, but it's so far in the future that it's just like discovering some sort of new species or civilization. So just the world and the world building and the kind of weird line between magic and mysticism and science that the first one introduced, this one definitely took maybe even a little bit farther. So I really enjoyed it, and I think probably just about as much as the first one, I'd say.
Yeah, I did too. I really liked it. You're right. I think this one did feel more like a sci-fi action blockbuster with some really kind of atmospheric, ethereal elements, whereas the first one was really, and probably because it was the first one and because it was introducing you to this world, so to speak, that one had a little bit more of an ethereal feel to it, whereas this one just sort of jumps right in, is a lot more plot driven, but it has those moments. Overall, I liked it. No, I loved it. It was really good. Agree with you. There was some parts that felt a little bit, slow, or could have used a few beats less in certain scenes to keep things going. There, parts where it just sort of dipped for a moment, but it only ever dipped for a moment, and then it got right back in and was super compelling. But just love the world. Love how they didn't spend any time really kind of like, sort of grounding you in what happened the last time. It just sort of jumps right in. And like, my experience, you really had to orient yourself to this world and universe in the first, with the first movie. And it did such a great job. And there was such, like you were saying, alienness. There was such otherness to this world, that they did a great job making it feel like an alien or just far future, very different culture, etc. Which was great. This movie, I felt very once the movie started, it was like, here we are, we're right in. Okay, and I'm like, I know who this is, I know who that is, and we're back, and I picked right up on the story. So yeah, overall impression, really loved it. So what are some of your deeper thoughts, spoiler-ish thoughts?
Spoiler-ish, yeah, I guess spoiler warning. I don't want to get too much into spoilers at the moment, but just to have it out there just in case. One of my big thoughts about it is I wish there were a lot of the elements in this one that were introduced in the first one. And what I mean by that is, like, I think we should have seen Austin Butler's character. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Something kind of strange. Faye Raiden or something like that.
Yeah. He's
Faye
just
Rotha.
Yeah, he's one of the Harkonnen guys, I guess. That's the easiest word to pronounce
right.
out of his names.
And I just felt like that they really didn't introduce him until halfway through the movie, and he had a pretty significant segment in the movie, but then I felt he kind of disappeared for the rest of it until the very end.
Right.
And I just felt, I think they could have maybe done a better job building him up as a villain, if not in the first one, which I really do think he should have been in the first one, but if not, then maybe spread his presence out a little bit more throughout the film, because he was probably my favorite addition to this sequel. Just his Austin Butler did an incredible job taking on the accent of the Skarsgårds, or at least Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Sounded almost identical to him. Not like Elvis, which glad to see he's shaking that accent. But just it's just a completely psychotic and crazy character, and it was totally fun to watch him. I don't even want to say chew the scenery, but just do his crazy Harkonnen barbarian act. And I would have really liked to have seen him fleshed out a little bit more, because what we got was great, but that would be probably my one kind of complaint about the movie in general, is that a lot of the stuff I felt maybe could have been incorporated into the first one. Like, I think it would have been interesting to see Florence Pugh's character and Christopher Walken's Emperor. They not that they had a huge presence in this movie, but it did feel a little strange to only just be introduced to them. I guess, was Javier Bardem in the last one? I can't remember.
Well, he probably was introduced, because that the last one ended on Paul and his mother, kind of hooking up with the Freeman.
Really started pretty much immediately where the last one ended, which I liked. I think there's a really good opportunity for fans to come in and chop off the credits of the last one and kind of plug them together as one big long 4.5 hour epic, which I'm looking forward to the movie coming out on Blu-ray to do that, to watch them back to back at least. The consistency between them was great, and it really did feel like an extension. Although, again, this one felt a little bit more action-packed. The story was definitely a little bit more straightforward, as straightforward as I think you could probably make the material. And it was kind of your in many ways, but not always, your typical kind of fish out of water, chosen one, brings a native group of people to rise up against their oppressors. But it was kind of the way they go about that overall plot is what makes it so interesting, because you almost expect the end of that kind of plot to be very triumphant for the main character, whereas the movie really, it is a triumph in the technical sense, but for the greater universe and for Paul, it's not so much, because now he's kind of created this holy war between the other factions and the Fremen, and he it's a little bit of a spoiler alert. He loses Chani, who he's fallen in love with, and so the where the movie ended was very interesting for one of those kind of movies, because you really do expect it to be a big, uplifting, triumphant ending, but in many ways it wasn't. So that was very, very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I was reading a little bit, and I think these two movies covered the first book. I guess, so I guess this is. I've never read the book. I think I attempted it once when I was like in junior high or high school, and I was like, okay, this is way too big for me. One thing I'll just say off the top is, it's crazy how, like you said it too, just how much this blends science fiction and fantasy. It's like, this very much could be, it has so many fantasy elements with all of the royalty and the houses and everything else. But I guess this is the first two, because I read an article with Denis. I'm gonna torture his last name, Villeneuve. How do you pronounce his last name?
Villeneuve, I think.
Villeneuve. Oh, okay. That he wants to do Dune Messiah, which is the next book. So I guess this finally did cover the first book, and it's funny because I thought that was, because it seemed to end again not on like a cliffhanger, sort of a cliffhanger, but like, so I thought there was more to the first book, but apparently there's so the book itself must end on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
I think the book, from what I've read, it sounds like the book ends a little bit differently. I think Chani ends up staying with Paul at the end of the book. I think it's a little bit. I do think they went a little bit more of a cliffhanger route for this one to set the next one up, which I actually didn't even know the next one was a done deal yet. But it sounds like I do think it probably depended a little bit on the performance of this one, but I think it's doing pretty well, very well.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling a third one is guaranteed, and he probably knew that. But I do think they adjusted the ending a little bit to make the transition to the next movie a little bit more obvious, I suppose. So
yeah, they set up some obviously some good tension and things that need to be resolved. But yeah, he did in that same article, he did mention that it was the sequel. It was somewhat dependent on the reception to this one, but it seems like it's doing, like you said, it's doing very well. What I thought, you were talking about some of the actors and the performances. Across the board, people just really nailed it and really put on some great performances. Obviously, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, and Timothy Chalamet were all good in their principal roles. It was funny how some people in Dune are very recognizable as themselves. Like Florence Pugh comes in, and that's Florence Pugh. Whereas you commented on Austin Butler's character. I read that he was, I was just looking at something online after the movie, and I saw Austin Butler. I was like, Austin Butler was in that movie? Who the hell was he? And then I was I was shocked to see that he played that Harkonnen character. I was like, wow, that was like, I did not even, I think that's a compliment. I did not even come close to recognize him. Same with Léa Seydoux in her role as that Bene Gesserit priest that sort of seduces Austin Butler.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Her from the last couple of James Bond films. Did not know that was her. Poor Dave Bautista. He's like he played sort of like the, I don't know how you describe it, but like he was like the wimpy brother that like kind of screwed everything up, and because he came off as such this like he was the hard guy, kind of like mean villain, stomping all over everybody, but he was a total like coward almost in this. But yeah, his performance was really good. Everyone did a great job, and so that's the other thing too, is that they have that little cameo with Anya Taylor-Joy as the unborn baby, and I was like, oh, so this must be. So again, I thought there was still more material in this book, but I guess all of this stuff points to things that are in subsequent books in the Dune series. So that was. I
think there is a little bit of a time jump in between the two books.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I don't know for sure, but I would have to imagine Anya Taylor-Joy is probably gonna feature more heavily in the next one as a grown version of the Paul's sister there.
Yeah, but it was really interesting too. It was really interesting how Paul just rejected all of the mystical stuff. I don't know if it was. I don't think you can say it was just him consuming that water of life, but there just was a series of events that made him just totally embrace it. And you wonder, I felt that I wasn't sure, is he backed into a corner and so he just has to do what he does? Has he had some kind of revelation and he believes all the mystical mumbo jumbo, or does he feel like it's just the most prudent thing to do to get his family back in power, so he's just kind of going along with it? I mean, to me, that was one of the good things about his performance, and obviously the writing is, you can't really, it could go either way, What do you think, production-wise, effects, sound, etc.?
Oh, I mean, it was stunning. We got to see it in the RPX theater, which, of course, meant our eardrums were close to being shattered, but that's why we go. Yeah. The visuals were just incredible. I want to say a lot of the visuals were even better than the first one, although it's been a few... I watched the first one a few months ago, maybe over the summer, and obviously that one was stunning as well, but there were a lot of really cool, whether it be the portrayal of technology, like I loved how the Harkonnens had those weird hover packs that were almost like anti-gravity fields, where they would like kind of float. It wasn't like a traditional jetpack. There was a lot of cool imagery related to that, and yeah, all the kind of there was maybe a little bit less mystical mumbo jumbo in this one, but everything that was there, like the talking fetus or whatever else, it looked really cool. And I'm trying to think, everything on the 80 Prime, I think, is the Harkonnen planet's name. I guess that, and I was trying to think, did we see that planet last in the first one? And I think we did, but everything was inside. And so we didn't get that really cool black and white contrast, dual sun or dying white star kind of effect. That was my favorite part of the movie, where it all just went almost completely black and white, and you saw a little bit more of the Harkonnen culture and their barbaric arena there, and everything, like just between the guards that had these giant headdresses on, and Austin Butler just madly killing everybody. That was just really stunning. And they had these almost like kind of firework type effects, but they were more almost like liquid. And it just goes towards the point of just how crazy, alien, and different this world that is tens of thousands of years ahead of us is. But at the same time, I think that kind of leads into one of my other kind of big, I don't even want to say negative per se, but it is, these characters are so, even though they're human, they're so far beyond anything that we could even begin to connect with. I had this problem with the first one too. I almost was not rooting for any character. Like, it's so hard to connect to any of them that I didn't have much of a personal investment in the story or the characters. And so if you're kind of looking for a more traditional A to B, this kind of goes into the triumphant, and it really isn't the kind of traditional like chosen one story, because if you look back at more traditional ones like Harry Potter or Star Wars, you have that, you can really connect to a lot of those characters, whereas this one, I just felt everything was so far in the future, royalty, mystical, almost alien, that I found it hard from a personal standpoint to really connect with the characters. But I think that's kind of by design. I don't think that's necessarily a mistake. So I hesitate to call it a true criticism, but just kind of my general feeling towards the movie.
There's also a lot of characters. I would say I felt a little bit that way in the first one. The second one, I was able to, connect certainly with Chani and a little bit with Paul but never too much. And you are seeing, there's so many different perspectives, and that's typical of this kind of almost like, obviously Game of Thrones came after this, but just the way that, George R.R. Martin wrote that book from so many different perspectives. This feels, it has those same type of elements. But yeah, overall, I really love the battle scenes, the sabotage scenes when they would sabotage the
that was cool.
spice
spice
tractors or
mining
whatever they were,
ships or
spice
whatever,
mining
yeah.
truck, and the final attack on the capital city there. I thought that was good. Some cool energy weapons, and then just the way the Fremen come up out of the ground,
Oh yeah,
and
that was cool.
and the sandworms.
Yeah, a lot more sandworm action in this one.
Yeah.
I was interested in how they'd pull off sandworm riding, but I think they did a great job. And yeah, that final battle with all the sandworms and the missiles going everywhere, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah, that you definitely get your science fiction action blockbuster space battle. Not space battle, but
Oh yeah, I guess we haven't seen any. I wonder. Yeah, I don't know how space battles work in this universe.
Yeah.
It's funny because as much as it is, as much fantasy and mysticism and stuff that there is in it, it does seem like there is still a attempt to ground it in reality. So I would be interested in seeing if it's like a space World War II dogfight kind of thing like Star Wars does. I have a feeling that probably wouldn't be the case. I think they're going for something a little bit more, I guess, realistic, for lack of a better word, where obviously you don't have explosions and banking and
right, and Frank,
that sort of thing.
And Frank Herbert's one of those sort of golden age science fiction writers like Asimov and Heinlein and those guys, and they tried to be very grounded about space travel and stuff. So I suspect that this would be something like that. And one other thing I wanted to point out too is, again, because I've seen a lot of little edits online and stuff, is again, so many of the beats of this were similar to David Lynch's Dune, and just like seeing the knife fight with
Sting
and
Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle MacLachlan, yeah. So funny, and seeing there was a meme. There was I don't know if it's a meme or like an edit of them. It showed the two sandworm riding scenes side by side.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty funny, but like it's amazing what that film did and technology.
I know it's so funny. Yeah, like some of the effects in that movie really do not hold up at all. But a lot of it, I've seen the same kind of comparison videos and clips here and there, and a lot of it does look very good, almost up to original Star Wars level effects. But yeah, so the shields in that movie looked really bad.
Yeah.
And obviously just the whole tone of it was like Sting was really goofy and silly, and I love it for that because it's so hilarious. But it is funny just how similar they are. I do think it was a very good decision to split it into two movies because it seems like that original David Lynch film is very rushed and really cranks through, and there's so many little details and stuff that you need to kind of cover. So I think that was overall a good choice.
Yeah, when the knife fight came at the end of the 2024 Dune, I was like, wow, how did they cram all this stuff into that 1984 film? And I don't even think it was that. I don't, there weren't a lot of 2 and 3 hour movies back then. I mean, they were not as common as they are now. So I think it's less than a 2 hour film. But yeah, I just thought that was
I really
amazing.
should go back and watch that.
Yeah,
just to see,
watch more of it. Yeah,
because we did watch the first maybe like half hour or so. After the first Dune came out in 2021.
Right, just to get a feel for it.
And yeah, I'd be interested. And it is funny. I think actually Sting's character is introduced a lot earlier in the narrative in that one. And what I've been told, I have a couple of friends who have read the books, or the first few at least. I know there's like 30 of them now, and it sounds like Dave Bautista actually took a lot of what would have been Austin Butler's role if he was included in the first one.
Yeah, he definitely did say he consolidated some of the characters and some of the story beats. He shifted from one character to another. So yeah.
But other than that, I think that pretty much wraps up all of my thoughts about it. I just another point for the music. I thought the music was very good. Hans Zimmer generally is a solid composer, although I've liked some of his stuff more than others. But music and obviously sound were excellent, and the special effects were just mind-blowing.
Tremendous, yeah, overall. Yeah, no, I think that's a wrap on Dune. Go see it if you haven't, but I think everyone's pretty much seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it twice. So.
Yeah, enjoyed it, and we have to consider what we're going to do next, because I mean, we've talked about this I think on a couple of episodes, just how because of the labor issues that there's just especially for genre films, it's a lot more slim pickings this year. Because
they're going to be a little bit more of a drier early summer in terms of genre movies, although still a lot of TV shows coming out. I have to give a shout out to Fallout. I'm really looking forward to that, and I think we should cover that.
Okay.
It's based on on one of my all-time favorite video game series, and everything I've seen from it has looked tremendous and very, very faithful. And I've been following. It's Christopher Nolan's brother Jonathan, who's the showrunner, and he's a big fan of the game. So I'm crossing my fingers that it isn't going to be a complete disaster like some past video game adaptations have been.
Yeah, I've been
everything,
working.
and a great cast: Walton Goggins, Ella Purnell, and a couple other big names, or not big names, but good character actors in there that I saw. So I'm anxiously looking forward to that. But I mean, other than that, I can't think of a whole lot within the next month or so, at least.
Yeah, we've got Godzilla and Kong. We're gonna have to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's coming out soon.
Wish I could say I was more excited about that, but
yeah, I know. I'm trying to try to just like suppress my anxious thoughts about that and just go in with an open mind. We'll see how it goes. But I think, like you said, there are. It seems like there's a lot of indie horror. Oh, and I know it sounds like Scream 7 is back on with Neve Campbell and actually
with Neve Campbell, yeah,
and Kevin Williamson is going to
Kevin
direct
Williamson,
it.
Yeah, so I just saw that. Yeah,
that'll be interesting.
I'm still, I'm a little bummed that they got them back, because it's like why didn't you do that 2 movies ago? First of all,
exactly,
and obviously Neve Campbell was in that first one,
right?
But it seems so out of left field. Like as much as I really did like Scream 6, although
I did
overall.
Like them.
I have to say these new ones haven't quite scratched that itch, Scream itch. I had a lot of issues with them, so it's not like I was super invested in these new characters, but it just seems so strange to suddenly pivot at this last moment. I really wish they just sucked
called
it up
it a
and
day.
brought Melissa. Well, either called it a day or brought Melissa Barrera back and tried to get Jenna Ortega back.
Right.
Even if
who
it
knows?
meant delaying it, but yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that'll happen. Yeah, because they had set themselves up as they were going to be sort of the running regular characters for this new generation, and well, we'll see how it goes. And I'm sure there will be other things that we will catch. Again, thank you so much for listening. We are always excited to get out here and do these episodes. I'm gonna promise that we'll get to the next one.
Yes,
in less the time than it's taken us to do this one.
At least, well, yeah. I don't know what's coming out between now and April 11th when Fallout comes out. But the good news is Fallout is a full series drop all at once.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So yeah, and I'll definitely crank unless it sucks. But even if it does suck. I'll probably crank through that pretty quickly so we can get that out, pending any newspaper interruptions, which is always a possibility, but I'll try to. All of the town elections and stuff here in New Hampshire are winding down and finishing up, so hopefully I'll have a little bit more free time coming up, so fingers crossed.
Awesome. And I'll do my every episode shout out to Lockwood & Co. and Lock Nation, and watch Lockwood & Co. If you're out there and you are working for any streaming service, pick up season 2 of Lockwood & Co. with complete fiction pictures and all those folks. We need season 2. They are folks. Some of the supporters of Lockwood & Co. are going to be having a booth at GalaxyCon. I think it's called GalaxyCon, or they're at GalaxyCon now, but they're coming to one of the Boston conventions too. So I definitely want to get in and see the setup there.
Oh yeah. We've it's been quite a few years since we did any Comic-Con, so definitely like to check that out.
Totally. All right. Again, give us a like and a follow anywhere and everywhere, and thank you very much for listening.
See you on the next one, guys.